Happy Sunday night and welcome to the Park Adventures Club. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Park Adventures Club for more great adventures, and please also give this video a like as it helps people to find us. Tonight's meeting is sort of a special session of the Park Adventures Club. There's a little thing coming up called Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, because when we conjure Universal and Halloween Horror Nights, we have to talk to this lady right here. It's Annie from Adventuring with Annie. How are you, Annie?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
I feel like, the fog starts appearing, and so I start appearing on more, shows here and there. So
Yeah. No. Well, hey, I know you're making the rounds, so thank you for making us a part of it. We appreciate it. Normally we would go through our the business of the week. I think that the business of the week needs to be this, which is our main topic for tonight, which is, should you go to Universal Halloween Horror Nights? And it's an HHN 2025 guide. So basically what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about Halloween Horror Nights for people who may not know what it is, kind of cover a lot of the bases, because I feel like it's a very divisive thing, Annie. Some people are like, oh, no, I only go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and other people are like, I only go to Halloween Horror Nights, and there aren't a lot of us that do both. So I want to talk about, kind of cover what it is, what people can expect when they go there, maybe kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on that, and then talk about the 2025 offerings, because we've gotten a lot of announcements. We're not done with the announcements. We've got some more, but we'll talk about everything that we know for 2025. But before we get started, Annie, I want to go and ask you this question: is how long have you been going to Halloween Horror Nights, and when did you start?
I started in 2014, and that was when I worked the event. I worked at the Alien versus Predator house.
Wow.
Yeah, so I wasn't like a scare actor. I just was like a house attendant, but it was like a seasonal job at Universal that I took, and then it became a part-time, that became a full-time job at Universal. But that's where I started at Universal, was Alien versus Predator Halloween Horror Nights, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And so over the years, I've started going a little bit casually when I worked there, but now I go a lot.
Well, let me ask you this. If somebody has never been to Halloween Horror Nights, how would you summarize it for them in a way that makes any sense? Because I feel like it's one of those things that I didn't know, really know it until I went. So, if you had to just couple sentences of what you would tell them about Halloween Horror Nights.
There's 10 houses that you walk through, and it's fully immersive, loud, scare actors. Nobody touches you, though, so you're totally safe there, but lots of scares. And then out in the street, there's scare zones. So you're walking through the streets, and there's scare actors, which are just, the monsters and the creatures in these scare zones. And then there's entertainment all around. So there's, fire entertainment, and there's water entertainment. There's lots of things happening. So it's chaos, I guess, is one word to describe it, if that wasn't enough.
Chaos. Okay, I'll go with that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's very difficult for me to actually tell people this is exactly what it is, because there are so many facets to it. And again, I think my frame of reference before I went, I think the very first time I went was 2019, because I had always thought to myself, and something you just said really resonated, they're not going to touch you. I feel like anybody who's been to an old school, haunted forest or something like that, they don't really have those rules, and maybe they do. But I feel like it's one of those things where it gets, I mean, a lot of people think they're going to touch me. They're going to, I'm going to get hit by something. There's none of that happens. I can't even emphasize that enough. But I went in 2019. That was my first year going. And then, I feel like once you go, and, you tell me what you think. I feel like once you go, you're kind of hooked, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing that happens with most people, that once you go, you're hooked, because it's just so much adrenaline and, energy and loud music and loud noise and people everywhere. And it's just so Like, it makes you feel alive. I know everybody around you's dead, but you know, it makes you feel alive too. So
Makes you feel alive. The very
yeah.
first time I took my daughter, they saw immediately that she was going to be a good patsy. And so they kind of like the scare actors leaned into scaring her a little bit, I think, more than the rest of us in the group. Have you found that to be true, that when you see
Oh
somebody that you
yeah.
know is an easy scare, you kind of go after them?
Oh yeah, so that's what you gotta. You don't be scared, or you will be scared, because they look for people that look scared. They're not gonna leave you alone. There's no. I know some events have like a no boo necklace or like a no scare thing that people can wear, but this event does not have anything like that. So you just do not act scared if you don't want to be scared. The more scared you are, the worse it's gonna be.
So there are so many different things I think that people need to know when they first decide they're going to go to Halloween Horror Nights. The first one is it's not included in your day ticket. That's just a thing you need to know. The second part is if you're going to Universal during this period of time and you want to go to Universal Studios theme park in Orlando, especially, they close down like around 5 or 6 so that they can get everybody ready for this event. So you're gonna have a shorter day if you just want that park. You're gonna have a shorter day. But if you want to go for Halloween Horror Nights, it doesn't start until what is it 5:30 that you get to go in.
No, it's like 6 or 6:30 usually. But they close, and they have to get day guests out of the park before they can start letting people in. So I think like the park closes at 5, and then basically they got to kick the day guests out, which takes a while, and then they do an opening ceremony before they start letting people into the park. But if, like you said, if you don't know and you come to the park and then all of a sudden it's closed for the rest of the night, that's something I see people surprised by that all the time, or people that don't understand there's a separate ticket for it. So like you said, there's tickets for Halloween Horror Nights that you have to buy on top of a day ticket if you plan to go all day and then go to Halloween Horror Nights.
And we're going to talk about the ticket pricing before we're done here, and how it breaks down, because I think there are so many options for it. But before we do, we have a quick super chat that I want to. That's our super chat. Do you like that? Somebody said it sounded like HHN. I don't know. But it's from our friend Jungle Cruiser, and it says, Annie, if you have never gone, would you recommend the new permanent HHN experience in Vegas first? Less intimidating? Question mark. So that's from our good friend Jungle Cruiser, and we're definitely going to talk about the permanent installation, not only coming to Vegas, but then the one that's been announced for Chicago at the end of this. But in general, I feel like it's going to be the same experience, don't you? To answer his question.
I don't. That's a tough thing to say at this point. I wonder if it's going to be aimed at a little more intense crowd at the other locations versus Universal Orlando, where I think we've got like a lot of kids come and things like that. Whereas the other venue, I think, might just be a little older, hopefully. So I don't know. That's going to be a tough question. You got to maybe do both. They're going to have houses, so I think it'll be similar. I don't know. I got to go and find out, don't I? I have to
Yeah.
investigate.
Obviously you do. By the way, I've cranked you up as high as I can volume wise, but you may need to scream for the people in the back a little bit.
Okay, I'll scream.
Yeah, okay.
I'll
Okay,
get
ice cream. Yeah,
I'll
everybody
get
wants to hear what you have to say, though.
well.
Yeah. Okay, so the deal is that you show up for this hard ticketed event, and it is that's the terminology we use all the time at Disney, Oogie Boogie, or Mickey's Not So Scary, or the Jollywood Nights, a hard ticketed event. You show up to HHN ready to go, and they start it in August now, and it runs through November 2nd, I believe, and so it starts at the end of August. It's not the beginning, but it feels like it gets longer and longer every year because it's such a popular offering. And so you show up, and there is the opening Scaremonies, where everybody kind of gathers outside the gates waiting to get in. By the way, just to be clear, this happens at the Universal Studios Orlando theme park, not at the Islands of Adventure. It's specifically this park. And I do want to ask you as we go on, like if you think it needs to be expanded. Probably not. I mean, it's pretty cool how it is. But you get to the opening Scaremonies, and I feel like that's pretty important to watch, don't you? Like to be able to experience those opening Scaremonies?
Yeah, I think that's like such a big deal, but there's two different ways of like experiencing Halloween Horror Nights. You can actually be already inside the park. They have something called Stay and Scream. If you have a day ticket and an event ticket, you can stay inside the park. But then you miss the opening Scaremonies at the front of the park. So I know there are a lot of people that they will get there early and sit at the gate because they want a good spot for opening Scaremonies rather than going inside, so they want to see the opening Scaremonies. And last year, I really liked last year's. I think, and the year before that was good, but then there's been a few years that were great and then some that weren't as good. I think the year with the Pumpkin Lord is the one that stands out as being really awkward because the Pumpkin Lord was so far from the gate, but now it happens so like close to the gate and on like the platform. It's a good view when you're outside of the gate. So I think, like you said, it's really a good way to start the night.
So I'm going to show this photo, and I do not want this to scare anybody who has never been, but this is the entirety of people waiting outside. And I feel like the shot. This is the entirety of people waiting outside, shot from above, waiting for the opening Scaremonies to begin. And this is what it looks like with everybody in here. So everybody's here waiting at the entrance gates to get in. You can see that kind of, you can see the Rip Rocket in the background, but there's a thing that says Halloween Horror Nights a little bit closer. That's that bridge that she's talking about where they do the opening Scaremonies and they come out and they tell you about what you're about to see. And it's like, about 5 minutes maybe, of the entire thing. But like this never doesn't overwhelm me when I look down and see this shot of all these people there. I mean, it's crazy because this is a long event. That's the other thing I wanted to say too, is this event starts at, as you said, about 6:30 and it usually goes till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
As opposed to like some of Disney, and I'm not trying to like slam Disney here, but some of Disney's hard ticketed events will start at like 7 o'clock and end at 11. So you get a 4-hour event. This you got to be ready to play when you come here. It's basically, 6 o'clock till it's basically like a 7-8 hour event if you want to do the whole thing. And because lines can be long, people want to get in first so they can get those first houses in, even though it's daylight out, so there you go. What were you going to say?
Well, and you get your value for your money because like being able to go to the park that long, all night, and it's not hot, because it's dark out. So that's a great part. But some of the rides are open. I'll be interested to see which attractions are open this year. But it's pretty crazy out there. Don't show me that. I'm getting triggered that I got to be out there in that. Don't
I mean, that's what I'm saying is.
I saw that. I got a little like.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I get excited. I don't know. That's what I'm saying is like, so to be there for the opening Scaremonies, if you're not there for the Stay and Scream, to be there for the opening Scaremonies means you're in that. Now, you could come probably, 30 minutes later and you'd be okay.
Yeah. That's the thing is that if you just get stuck in that crowd, I mean, it's going to move slow, but then it's going to be gone. It's like, if you're, come see the opening Scaremonies, go to Fat Tuesday, sit, have a drink, or hopefully Dead Coconut Club again this year. Go sit, have a drink for a little bit, then go back because I let that crowd go in, let them get in, and then because that chaos there. Sometimes you get stuck though. I think the one year I went during like team member preview to just see the opening Scaremony, and then the floodgates started and I'm just like, I'm not a team member. I can't go in there, but I'm stuck in this crowd. So you'll get stuck.
Well, all right. So before we go any further into the event itself, I want to pause to what you just said, and it's something I wanted to bring up later. But there is a place, there's a bar at City Walk called the Red Coconut Club, and they change it for Christmas and for Mardi Gras and for Halloween, and it's the Dead Coconut Club for Halloween. So when you're talking about that, you're talking about it. It's not even like specifically a universal hangout, right? It's just like it's a club that has decided that they're going to like mirror the events, which seems to make too much sense of whatever's happening in the parks. And you would recommend people go to this place, right? The Dead Coconut.
Yeah, it's actually Universal that does it. It used to be originally when it first started. It used to be the same team as like the tribute store that design like the design team that did the tribute stores used to do the Dead Coconut Club, and now it's a different team, like a City Walk team that's doing it. But it is still Universal. So like they really do put a lot into it, and I think there's going to be some cool stuff this year. At Mardi Gras, they had like a new like drink, like a I don't know an AR. There was a very cool drink box thing that I think we're going to see again at Halloween Horror Nights. So it's a popular place to go, and I think a lot of people do start there so that that big crowd of people gets in the park. They can have a drink, relax. Maybe there'll be some vampires. Last year there were like vampires roaming around and they were dancing. It was great. It's very cool. They got entertainment. They've got drinks. Very
So
cool.
if you're coming for the event only and you're not doing the stay and scream, your suggestion is come in, hang out, watch the opening ceremonies, then go maybe to the Dead Coconut Club, hang out there, get a drink, and then be ready for battle after that, ready for combat to come back in and do the whole event. Because again, it's a marathon, not a sprint, folks. You've got an entire day or entire night to do this thing. And some people do this whole 7, 8 hour event multiple times. And again, we'll talk about the ticket structure in a minute. So I've gotten some questions already about the stay and scream. Go a little bit into that. Let's say, again, we're talking about the people who are outside. We're showing those. If you're inside, do they put you in a certain area? Are there certain things you're still allowed to do? Are there, I mean, what I've seen, because I've never done the stay and scream part, is that people will get in line for the first house that they want to do. And so they'll already queue up, especially if it's a house that's super popular. But I assume that you could do rides or other things too. But what would be your strategy suggestion for that?
So it's interesting because they have different areas that are barricaded for stay and scream. And if you basically are already in the park, and to get in this barricaded area, you have to use your Halloween Horror Nights ticket. They scan your ticket and you go into the area. Then you can't leave the area. You're kind of stuck. But each area has like some stuff to do basically while you're waiting. You can get in line for a house, which is what a lot of people do. My favorite stay and scream, like for example, last year was the New York stay and scream, and so I would just go there and sit and wait and just let everyone else kind of get in line. A couple of the food booths were open, so you can get some food, which is a great time to get food because the houses aren't open and people are waiting in line for the houses. But if you want to get some food, then like in my opinion, you're not wasting valuable like event time. You can get your HHN food. What was it? What was last year's? What was it? Ghostbusters? Was Ghostbusters last year? Am I like I'm having like a memory lapse here? Was Ghostbusters last year?
I think it
It
was,
was.
yeah. The
Okay,
Ghostbuster, yeah. But
s'mores.
I know
Okay, that's what.
Insidious was, and they had that door piece of food that looked like the red
Oh
door.
yeah.
That was definitely a thing. But yeah, I do
Is
think
that
that
that food booth
Ghostbusters was
was
there last
there
year.
with that food booth was there with the s'mores. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, I remember I would always just be eating, and but you could get in line for Insidious or whatever other the houses were, and that was all. A lot of people get in line. I personally don't. I just kind of relax out of the line. I'm like, I'm going to be in enough lines later. And like my strategy is also that there are lines for houses that they kind of open earlier. If you go to a house that doesn't have a line, you can just go in a house that has no line. So there are a few that don't have like stay and scream areas that you can just kind of run to the back, and everyone else is in like a line for another house. I have a lot of strategies. I shouldn't be telling these. I should not. I'm just going to stop.
You shouldn't be giving them away. Yeah,
No, it's free.
last year was the Ghostbusters s'more, which was maybe the coolest thing food wise that I've ever seen them do. Here's a picture of the one that I bought. So it's the little Stay Puft Marshmallow dude roasted the same way he was in the movies. Yeah, freaking adorable. I
Yeah.
knew from the outset, and they haven't announced the food yet for the 2025 offerings, but I knew from the beginning that that was one of the things that I wanted to have. And I was looking up the Insidious thing was like, it was like a food pocket sort of a thing, and it was wrapped in what looked like a red door.
Yeah, I
So
think it
it
was
was
some
definitely
of
savory, not sweet.
potato
It wasn't a Pop Tart, but um,
potato
yeah.
thing. I think it was potato and lentils or something.
But like even the food booths, the way that they're themed, here was the Ghostbusters one from last year, was kind of amazing. The way there's Slimer's Korean corn dog, was one of the choices. I couldn't do that one, just couldn't do it. But it was for Frozen Empire. It wasn't for like the old school, the old school one. So last year was HHN 33, and so this year we're looking at HHN 34. So when you get into the event, there are so many different things that you can do. Like we talked about the food. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You can go do the houses and get in line for the houses. There are traditionally 10 houses, 5 IP, so brands that you know, and then 5 that are their own original houses. And then they have scare zones, which are just areas you walk through that are well themed with scare actors in them. And we'll talk about that too. But once you get into the park, the other thing you can do, and I want to talk about this from the top, is you can do the rides in the park. But like, I feel like anybody who has been more than once thinks to themselves, why would I do the rides? Like, I'm here to do the houses. So if you want to do the rides, you can, right? And most of them are still open and have a much lower wait time, right?
Well, that's the thing is I'm thinking this year, I'm not sure what it's going to be like because usually Rocket is open and
Oh,
Rocket's going to be gone. Mummy is usually open. Gringotts is open, but they close at like 11. And Transformers is usually open. And last year they didn't open it during the event. So, like, we were down Transformers last year. I don't know if they're going to open Transformers because we don't have Rocket. If we don't have Rocket and we don't have Transformers, because they don't open Villain Con, they don't open ET or anything over in the DreamWorks area. Simpsons is usually closed too. There's like Men in Black. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think they're gonna have too many rides open, honestly, because Fast and Furious is where a house is, so that's not even an option. Jimmy Fallon, same kind of thing. I don't think they're going to have too many rides this year. They haven't given out a list, but I'm kind of thinking there's not going to be too many rides. So sorry to break it to you, Rob. No rides for you. I cannot hear
No,
you.
you're not hurting my feelings on that. My thing is that I would recommend that people don't do the rides if unless you just
Oh
have not
no,
been to
yeah.
Universal in forever. I mean, you're there to do the houses, but I'm just saying like that's a thing that some people can do. I know that even on the the RIP tours, which again we'll talk about, they have some that are some people will go on rides during those.
Yeah, and I get it because there are people that if you're, like you said, the event is really long. It's like a full marathon here. So I would not ever recommend doing the park during the day at all. So if you're only going to the event, I understand saying, okay, let's do Mummy, let's do Gringotts because we're here. They have very short waits because most people are doing the houses. So I get people doing some of the rides, but I think that because most people are not doing the rides. And that's why, like, last year they closed Transformers. And this year, I think they're kind of like, okay, well, we don't need Rocket. Let's just ditch that. So
You know,
I don't, I'm curious whether we're going to have Mummy and Gringotts even still open, or if we're just going to like call it a day on no rides.
yeah, I think it was Mummy, Rocket, Gringotts, and Men in Black were all open last year. I know that that people can also go do like the immigration tour at MIB. While that's going on, that's a thing that is available to some of the tours. But I think that ride was open. I wonder if they, with Rocket down, if they won't go back to opening Transformers just to have something else open in the park, because that's not going to bottleneck anybody if they open up that attraction, as opposed to, Minions might screw things up because of that main scare zone thoroughfare that they've got going on there. Plus, there's not a lot of little kids for this event, so
Yeah.
having Minions probably not super important to do. So again, rides, there are some open, but at the same time, I don't know why you would necessarily do that. Although a friend of the show, Katie, she used to work at Disneyland, and I went there, and we went to Oogie Boogie, and I was excited because I don't ever get out there or don't get out there as much to go do some attractions. She's like, "What are you doing? Like, why during Oogie Boogie would you go to any ride and do anything that's not involved in Oogie Boogie?" And as a local, she was appalled that I was even thinking it. Now I didn't do it because then I was shamed, but again, I do understand it because I wouldn't do them here. I wouldn't do them during HHN. So
Yeah, I get that.
yeah.
Fair.
So let's talk about the scare zones. So the scare zones are set up throughout the park. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, "I'd like to go, but I'd like to not have to be scared all the time." And so she's like, "Can you navigate your way around the park without going through the scare zones?" And you really can't. Like, you can't get through
I was
because they've
just,
got them all set up. Yeah.
yeah, I was just trying to think that myself. Like, could you really ever get through the entire, or like get where you need to be without going through a scare zone? And I don't think so. I think you have to cross through at least like two out of five. So if you want to get anywhere, so if you don't want to be scared, I don't know if I would go.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess stay on the sidewalk as much as you can, but still,
Well, and that's
it's
that's kind of that's kind of why I'm bringing it up, is that if you don't, I don't think it's as scary as people think it is. And I think once you go through one or two houses, you're okay. You're like, okay, I get this. I now know what's happening. There are some things that I would recommend if you are sensitive to sound. Definitely come in with some earplugs. Not a big deal. Like it will definitely dull down the screeching and screaming a little bit. But once you get into it, it really is more like you're just entertained. And so I think that the going through the scare zones, they have. If you get there at opening Scaremonies, it's daylight, and it's weird going down that first one down by Bourne
yeah.
as you're walking through, and they're pumping in some smoke, and there are people walking around in costumes, and they've got some like set things that they've rolled in, and you're like, well, this isn't all that scary because I see everybody. I know that you're hiding behind that crypt over there, and it's not quite as scary. But once it gets dark and you don't know who's a scare actor and who's just a bystander, it does get a little bit freaky at that point.
Yeah, so if you're worried about, being scared, go during the day. And if you really want to be scared, don't, wait a little bit into the evening till the sun goes down and then go into the park. Because it's like you said, when you go in and it's right outside and you're looking at these set pieces, it's like, that's not that scary. I mean, broad daylight, it's not that scary, but in the dark, you get the vibes.
Yeah, so you can see some of these guys. This was the Blumhouse last year. Some of those folks are up on platforms, but here's a shot where you look down and you can see there's the smoke and the lighting effects, and every now and then one of these people that's walking down is just going to jump out at you for no particular reason, like that guy right there with the knife. I mean, that's how the scare zones work, and so it's people love them though, because it's like they want the people to be they want to be the ones that the scare actor comes up to, and so they get that moment or take that picture or whatever. So So yeah, I
Yeah, and
mean they're pretty fun.
yeah, and like there's enough people around that you're not alone, obviously, as you can see from those videos. So, it's fun to be scared there. It's not like you're gonna have nightmares, I don't think.
Well, like they say, never go alone. That's
That's
the theme.
true.
Um, So the scare zones in the past, most of the time they're original. Sometimes they're like there was a Zombieland once where they kind of ran it like the Zombieland, and they had some people who looked like the actors from Zombieland. This one with Blumhouse, it was characters from the Blumhouse movies, but a lot of them are original IP. I think it was 2023 where everything was sort of themed was themed around the same character, right?
Oh yeah, Dr. Oddfellow.
Dr. Oddfellow, and it was different time periods of Dr. Oddfellow as you would go
Yeah.
through time and different incarnations of him. And honestly, we had somebody explain that to us, and if that hadn't been the case, I would have just gone, "Oh, I'm just walking through a scare zone." Like I wouldn't have known like that there was such a tight, intricate storyline involved. If people want to know those things and not pay for an RIP tour, where do they usually go for that kind of information other than to Adventuring with Annie? Like, I mean, is there another place to go, or you just corner the market on that?
Well, Universal usually does podcasts with stories about them, but they haven't done any, I don't think, this year so far. I don't know if they're going to do them. But other than an RIP tour, we didn't really talk about the Unmasking the Horror tours, because that's another thing that if you're afraid, you should do that, because one, you can see inside the houses. If you're like a fan of Ghostbusters, you walk to the Ghostbusters house and there's lights on, no actors inside, no scary sounds, but you get to see the sets, get to see what it is. If you like, if you like Ghostbusters, you get to see what it is, but you don't have to worry about Garaka, trying to grab at you or anything. So those are really nice, but you get a lot of backstory on those tours too. But those you do have to pay for. So, but I think they're a lot cheaper than an RIP tour. So
Yeah.
you get to see the houses in an entirely different light. You get to take pictures in the houses, and you get backstory.
That's okay. So let's talk about the houses, and then we'll talk about the offerings, in particular the tickets and things like that. So the houses, there are 10 houses, and as I mentioned, 5 of them are intellectual property houses, the houses of brands you know. I think some years there have been 6 of that and 4 of the other, and sometimes vice versa, depending. I know that in the past, sometimes intellectual property deals have fallen through after they've worked on these houses for so long. But there are 5 that are intellectual property. So far for 2025, they've announced Terrifier, they've announced Jason Universe, and they've announced Fallout, the TV show, not the game, which is important because there was a year where they did Last of Us, the game, not the TV show. So Fallout, the TV show. And then they've announced Five Nights at Freddy's, but they haven't said this is a house. Annie, what do you think about that? Like they've just said there's going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's experience. Do you think it's going to be a house and they just haven't said that? Or I've heard maybe screen-based house. What are your thoughts on what do you think Five Nights at Freddy's is going to be?
I have 2 theories. Well, one, I think it's going to be a house, but I also feel like I could just be making up things or trying to manifest things. But what if they brought back scare actor dining and they put it in Louis, and you could
Oh,
like eat Five Nights at Freddy's characters and eat pizza in Louis that is themed to Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, this is just me manifesting things because they took scare actor dining away. Scare actor dining used to be like character dining, and they used to do it in Monsters Cafe. Then Monsters Cafe closed to become Minions Cafe, and they moved it to Louis. And I went the year it was in Louis, and that was the last year they ever did it, and they never brought it back. But I just feel like when they're like, "Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's is coming, but we are not saying it's a house." Oh, ho, ho, ho. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, just like, just if it's not just a house, it's got to be either a house and something else. That's my. I just feel like I just want scare actor dining back. I loved scare actor dining. I just
Basically, what we're saying here is you just want scare actor dining back. I get it. I
I
understand.
do. I do.
I never got to do it. Although, again, I did take an RIP tour, and there was a time, and it may have been in the 2019, where there were scare actors walking around the La Bamba when in there, like during the like RIP seating in there. So that's the only experience that I've had with that at all. But it would be interesting to see that dining return. So the houses, as I said, so Jason Universe, which is kind of like all things Friday the 13th, Jason, and then Fallout, the TV show, which I'm very excited about because I loved that show on Amazon Prime. I thought they did a great job with that. So it'll be fun to see that one. I always feel like I need to study for the IP one. So I've never seen Terrifier. So I'm like, great, now I got to watch these Terrifier movies to get ready. What? Why are you shaking your head?
I don't want to watch them. I
We
don't want
watched
to
all
watch them.
5 Insidious movies last year getting ready for Insidious.
I
Like,
I didn't watch Insidious, did I? No. So see, look, I can get away with not watching Terrifier this year. I'll let him spray me with blood, but I have no desire to watch it, I don't think.
so yeah, so those are the houses that are the IP houses for this year, and then the original houses. And let me pull this up. This is from Universal's website. So here are the 3: Terrifier, Jason, Universe, and Fallout. Then these are the original houses. These are ones that they come up with, and sometimes they replay some of the content from a scare zone. Sometimes they take an old house that they made and make that a scare zone, or take a scare zone and make that a house. This year it's Hatchet and Chains, Demon Bounty Hunters, Dolls Let's Play Dead, Grave of Flesh, Galkin, Monsters of the North, El Arista, A Spanish Haunting. So those have been announced. That's done deal. Those 5 are coming. Is there one of those that like you think may be a good fit, or maybe you're excited about because of the name and the premise? Because I there was one year, and I think it was this year, the 2022, where there was a bug theme to one of the original houses, and I remember being with people that are like freaking hate bugs, and they were like, I love the idea of Halloween Horror Nights and horror and death and stabbings and blood, but I am not going in a house of bugs. Like, that was a thing they were not going to do. So to me, the one that stands out that way this time is Dolls Let's Play Dead, because a lot of people have that creepy vibe about dolls over bugs. But any that you think that stand out for you?
Well, I like that they're doing the bounty hunter one, because last year I said, "Oh, they should take one of the pieces of Slaughter Cinema and make it its own house." And that was one of Slaughter Cinema's last year. So that was like a scene, that was like a part of a house last year. So they're making its own house based on a little part of a house last year. So that's what I'm really excited for, because I kind of feel like I manifested that one somehow too. So maybe I'll be right about Scare Actor Dining too, because nobody wants to say, "Oh, well, we can't tell you what Freddy's is." Nobody wants to say anything. So it's got to be more than a house. I'm sorry. That's Scare Actor Dining. Bring it back.
Jess is in chat and said, you guys are in for a real treat. I love Terrifier. Really? You do? I'll watch it. I mean, I'll watch it, but I don't picture that being a thing. Dawn says, I have bug issues, but Brandy made me go. I'm sure Brandy has that effect. She's probably like, nah, come on, it'll be fun. Nah. And it was very campy too. That was the thing. But when you're in these houses, there are a couple of things that they will use to make it more immersive. And one of the things is obviously sound, screaming and crashes and things like that. There are some jump scare things that happen where like a solid door will drop next to you and you'll like jump even though there's nobody there. But they have, especially in the bug house, that's what made me think of it. They'll have strings hanging down. So as you go through, you're like you feel like that's there. Most of the rooms are separated when you're going through a house by these plastic, like curtains as you go through. And so that's a thing as you're walking through that I didn't realize was in a house until I got into these. And they kind of separate the scenes. They separate the sound. They kind of allow you to have that reveal as you're going through. And then water is a thing too, is that every now and then, I know that there was an original that was in a swamp or like a campground, and like there was a snake in the toilet and it would spray water at you. And so sometimes the water is water and sometimes the water is supposed to be blood. So that's a thing. And you don't get a lot of that, but I feel like there have been some effects like that have happened. Are there any effects that you, I know we talked about the smells because they
Oh
also
yeah.
pump in smells and they all smell like the smoke that they put in there too. But are there any effects that you kind of think are awesome, or are there some effects that you were like, God, please get rid of these?
Oh my God. Well, now you got me thinking about the smells. So, um, I don't like the hanging like string things that are touching. I'm not a big fan of those. I don't like that. It just that I think that the the actors can't touch you, but the things hanging can touch you, and I don't like
Right.
that. The
Yep.
I think a lot of people were bothered last year by the vomit. The room of major suites. They were vomiting and everywhere, and it was
But
you
that
were
wasn't
getting
a
wet.
smell. That was just you were getting wet.
No, that was just yeah.
Okay.
So
Just let's be
I
clear about that because I know
oh
that
yeah.
triggers a lot of people, and I can't imagine that they would have put that in there. Um, but the smells, let's go back to the smells because there's something I love smells. I love the smell of ET when I go into that attraction. I know like that smell very well. They sell candles at these events that smell like some of the houses, and that's my son's favorite part is to find out what the candle is going to be. He was upset that he didn't realize that there was an Epic in Darkmoor. There was a candle. He's like, wait, there was a candle and I missed it. Like he
Oh,
wants. Oh yeah.
yeah, it was a
So
Burning Blade Tavern one, I think, at Epic.
So yeah, it wasn't in the main shop at the end. So we didn't get it, but I was like, yeah, you didn't see it. That was the thing. But he always buys the candles from these. I'm 100% sure he bought the one from Insidious because we really did our research on that one. As a matter of fact, for this next one, he has researched the heck out of Five Nights at Freddy's, the video games, the movies, the lore, the start of it, the creator. Like he's ready, and I'm like, dude, they haven't promised a house yet, and he's like, oh, it's gonna be a house, and he's like, I don't know. And so I think that's one of those things that people are still up in the air about. But I will say that the houses are what sold me on HHN. Scare zones are fun. The foods are neat. The shows we haven't talked about yet because definitely want to talk about the show. But these houses, the production value of these houses, and when I say production value, they make these temporary spaces that look amazing. You are walking through a movie set when you do this, and it is convincing and it is awesome, and it is and you are just immersed in this world, whatever this world is. I keep thinking back to some of my favorite houses. Ghostbusters, the original house in 2019, they did the original Ghostbusters, and they had the woman in the firehouse when you walked in. She's like Ghostbusters, and like she's talking the whole time. Sometimes they're recorded voices, sometimes they're real voices, but when we were walking through that house and it was so good that I was just blown away. And the same thing with Stranger Things, because I know that IP very well. We went in, the actors looked like the actors so much. The very first one I did was, I think, Stranger Things in 2019, and the 11, they had several in different rooms, was on point. And then when we did this last one, I think it was like the season 4 one, it was there. We were walking through Stranger Things. So do you have a favorite house that you've ever been to that sold you into this whole thing? Production value, characters, whatever.
The Asylum in Wonderland was the best house ever.
Because you're
I think
a Alice fan?
no, it was so good. It was like neon and trippy, and you wore 3D glasses, and like you walk through like the comic book entrance of Alice in Wonderland, and there was a bridge, and it was one of those bridges like they had in the Beetlejuice house where it kind of spins around you and you feel like you're going to fall down. So with the wheels spinning around you and the 3D glasses and the neon, like as soon as I walked in there, it was like I just couldn't believe that effect of making you feel like you were spinning down the rabbit hole, when you came through. And then these characters were jumping. I think they were like in trampoline room type things, and the neon and the colors, and it was just like scary, but not scary. But that one was like life changing. I won't forget that. I've been through a lot of houses, and that's just one that instantly I could tell you that's the one I love the most.
Okay. Was there any that completely just disappointed you beyond reason?
Chucky, the Chucky
What?
that we had here sucked.
Like
I'm
the
not allowed to
one
say
that
that
was
on the internet.
2 years ago, was it?
Yeah, it was terrible.
It
That
was
was terrible.
campy.
It's terrible. The one in Hollywood was good. Ours was awful. Like ours, they should have been embarrassed by that one. It was
Well,
terrible.
again, the premise of that one was very interesting in the fact that they made a house. It was like that they were saying, hey, the whole group got together and at Universal and made a house for Chucky, but then Chucky came through and didn't like it, so then he killed them all and made his own house. I
See,
think if you
even
go in with that
Chucky knew it was bad. See, Chucky
I
knew
think
it
if
was
you go in
bad.
with that premise, I don't know. I thought it was okay. If it's an IP that you're supposed to know and I don't know it, I want to learn it now because I did the one that was the Blumhouse where it was the Freaky and Black Phone, I think
Oh yeah.
maybe that were together, and I'd never seen Black Phone, but I'd seen Freaky, and so Freaky, I was like, oh, that's cool. There's the Vince Vaughn character. There's this, there's that, and I get in Black Phone, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening here. Because I feel like they explain it less when you are it's an IP house because they assume you know what it is, as opposed to like Darkest Deal. They kind of explain to you as you're going through what that was an original house where like the devil, the guy sells his soul. This struggling musician sells his soul to the devil, and you walk through this process with him, and as he's kind of turning darker, and it's called The Darkest Deal. So I mean, I just think that if it's an IP house, and unfortunately, I think you and I both are going to need to watch Terrifier. Is basically where I'm going with that.
I know. I think it's gonna have to happen, but you
Brittany's
like
Brittany says the Chucky house was my least favorite that year. Jess says the Weekend was a surprise hit for me. I don't disagree. That one, I went through that one twice, and that music just pumped you up outside. They were just jamming the Weekend music, and if you think about it, and even if you were an HHN fan or not an HHN fan, if you learned about the Weekend house, you were like, wait, you're doing what? You're having a house based on the music performer The Weekend? Like, what are you doing? But it worked.
yeah. That was if I had to pick a second favorite house, that would be the most memorable and most. I was thinking about it today. Funny, I was thinking like, what has been one of my favorite houses, and The Weekend was amazing. And I just like when, like you said, when they said, "Oh yeah, The Weekend house," I'm like, "Oh wow, this is the stupidest thing ever." And then I went through it and I was like, "Nope, that was the best." And that was the first house I did that year, and that was the last house on the last night that I did. I wanted to end on that house because it was my favorite.
Yep. Okay, so those are the houses. Let's get back to the food for a second because just asked
Ooh,
in
love
chat,
food.
can you give us a navigating food and beverage lines? Any tips? It always kills the vibe waiting forever for drinks. That's true, especially again, you know if you go to like EPCOT Food and Wine Festival, you're there for the food and wine, and so waiting in the booths is like what you're doing. But here you're here for HHN, you're here for the houses and the scare zones. But you want, especially with that like the Ghostbusters treat, you're wanting to like sample those things. I think you talked a little bit about that coming in, that you said maybe come early and that's one of the first things you do. I think you wait till the end of the night, but you're going to risk them running out of stuff or them closing early is what I've found out. But any other tips that you have on that?
Yeah, for drinks, there are usually so many bars, and if one has a line, just keep going because you'll come to another one. And they've started tucking them all like in different little spots. So I find that if you see a line for a bar, just keep going because there's another one not too far away, I promise. That's
Yeah.
my tip.
Okay. Yeah, I remember there was a 1 year where my daughter was with us, and she is a vegetarian, and so she wanted a pretzel, and so I couldn't like the pretzel booth that was by like Fallon over there was completely out and for the night, and so then we had to walk down, and we did find one further down, like back toward San Francisco, but I think that's the only risk you run. I think during like if you wait till after most people are done eating, you're gonna be able to have a better time waiting in those lines. But I think that probably that sweet spot between, say, 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, you're probably gonna have your longest lines. Would you assume?
Yeah, I feel like most people hit the houses pretty early on and start hitting the lines, and then once they've done like one or two, they start doing the food. So that's why again, like I like to do the food during stay and scream, so that I'm not like waiting in line for a house. I just get my food then, enjoy it. It's usually a lot shorter lines then because everyone's waiting for the houses. So get your drinks, get your food then. Try to avoid those, like you said, I think the peak times of like, you know, that 9 p.m. time. If go later in and everything, the lines are shorter for everything. The later the night, the houses are shorter lines, the food's shorter lines. If you just go late at night, you'll have a good time.
Because people come in raring to go, and 6:30 hits, and they get in the park, and then by 9:30, 10:30, they're like, we should probably get out of here. Yeah, but you can go all the way till 2 because I love shutting the place down. So it seems weird to talk about entertainment because they do have a few other outside entertainment offerings outside of the fact, like all of this is entertainment. The scare actors inside the house, the scare actors in the scare zones, it's the scare actors in the opening Scaremonies. All of that stuff is entertainment. But they also have a couple of other offerings. They had the Megans one year that would come out and dance during HHN only. They also had David S. Pumpkins that came out, and I think he's coming back this year. And so he was like standing there going "Preguntas," like it was so good.
I love him.
And then they have the dimension, no, not Dementors, the Death Eaters.
Death Eaters, yeah.
The Death Eaters in Harry Potter in Diagon Alley, and that's a great little show. They come out and they do a spooky thing, and then they run through the shops and the crowds, and then they regather on the stage and disappear after they, make the mark appear in the sky. That's a neat show. Like, to me, that's the thing that you shouldn't miss, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. You shouldn't miss that. But there is one main show, and it used to be Bill and Ted. I never saw Bill and Ted, so I'm not going to talk about Bill and Ted. But the show that exists, and it has existed since I've been going, has been called Nightmare Fuel. And it is over at what was the, Fear Factor stage, and before that was the Wild West Stunt Show. It has 4 showings during the course of the night. And I don't think you've been to HHN unless you've done Nightmare Fuel. And to go to this show, please make sure you go with an adult, because it is the most... I mean, the things people have said about this show. First of all, you're not supposed to take pictures. I think you and I have both broken that rule on several occasions, Annie. I know you're not supposed to take pictures or video. I think you've taken full on video of this thing. I mean, maybe not. Yeah. I don't want to blow up your spot. Allegedly.
No, I mean, if you go to any other performers' pages, there's plenty of people that are there taking photos. So,
Yeah,
I'm, just saying, but yeah, it's a great show though. You got to do it.
Yeah, it's like, I think people have referred to it as like an S&M magic show. There's dancing, there's scantily clad people, there's fire, there's magic, and there's a story, and they pump you up with like some 90s MCR, man, if you don't know the song Black Parade, learn it before you go, because the entire place sings it as they're like getting hyped up for the show. That's pre-show. But I don't know. I had an amazing time at this show. There were one of the shows I went to, there were some like kids of like in that like 10 to 12 range sitting in a few rows ahead, and I thought, well, their parents are going to have to explain a lot of stuff to them after they leave this. I feel like am I overplaying it? You don't think so?
No, I mean, I was looking at the people in front of me, and I think the husband looked at his wife like, am I allowed to be here?
Yeah, that's exactly kind of how that goes. But I don't feel like you've been to HHN unless you go to see this show. But I feel like people felt that way about Bill and Ted, and Bill and Ted had gone by the time I started going, and Nightmare Fuel has changed its story along the way, but has been there since I've started going in 2019. And I, I think it's an amazing show. It's always great to see. So I think I've seen it 4 times maybe. But of course, again, it changes a little bit along the way. I'm sure you've seen it many more times than I have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right, so let's talk about the tickets because I feel like with Disney, and again, not trying to bash Disney here because we are park adventurers and we talk about Disney and Busch Gardens and SeaWorld and Tokyo and all of these things. We talk about them here. But a hard ticketed event at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party has become more and more expensive to the point where, like I mentioned, it's like a 4-hour entry. You can get in earlier. You can get in at like 4. So you can kind of get 7 hours out of it, but you're in with day guests for the first 3 hours of it. And so then you go, but those tickets are like $200 a person. These start at $83 a piece. That seems to me to be, especially if you're getting like 7-8 hours out of it, you're basically paying $10 an hour for what is, I think, an amazing evening.
Yeah, and it's always different every year. Whereas Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I mean, how many times can I watch the same kind of show? I mean, I haven't been to I grew up going to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I'm so old that I have photos of every year from Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party because back in the day, you used to stand in front of like a backdrop and they took a professional picture and they mailed it to you and you got it in the mail. I'm so old. That's how it worked. I've got those photos. So I used to go to Not So Scary Halloween Party. But now it's like, what do you got? The same Hocus Pocus show is the same 10 years they've been doing that. You got the same Boo to You. I mean, is it the same song, right? So I don't know. And maybe
I said I wasn't here to
wrong.
bash Disney. I didn't say Annie wouldn't. That's all. That's I'm just putting that out there. I didn't say
No,
Annie
don't look
wouldn't
at
be
my
bashing.
Disney
No,
stuff. Don't tell
it's fine.
Disney. Don't
You're
tell.
like, yeah. See you in the fog. Yeah.
But,
So let me just put this out there. So the first couple of nights of this thing are in August, and
Rob
it's
wanted me to stop talking about Disney. Sorry. Disney was like,
no.
change the subject. Sorry.
No. I want to talk about the ticket because I do think this is a value. So like you can see
Yeah.
that HHN happens on a ton of nights versus Mickey's Not So Scary. So you're seeing it. There are some nights, Mondays and Tuesdays in September, where you don't see it. Same thing in October. But then Wednesday through Sunday they go full throttle. There's one switcheroo here in September, but if you look at this, the first couple of nights are high price because these are like your preview nights, 103, 107, 107. Then you get into the regular $83, and Halloween, if I'm looking at this correctly, Halloween is $98. Like, again, they're not, I think that for Mickey's Not So Scary, they pump that up way high. Saturday, the first is $108, and then the last one is $93. So you're paying anywhere from $83 to $108, depending on when you go. If you're going during, closer to Halloween, during a weekend, that kind of stuff, then the prices go up. But I think that is extremely... I think that's a value night to me.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to bash Disney. I didn't
I'm
mean
kidding.
to get off
I'm
on
joking,
a tangent.
Annie. I'm joking. We're good.
But I didn't mean to get off on a tangent. But I think my point was that every year Horror Nights is completely different. So every year, if you're spending that money, it's a completely different experience versus Not So Scary Halloween Party, where I know people that are kind of like, I looked at there's not that much difference this year. I'm not going, So I think that, for the price being so low and you get a brand new event every year, I think that's a selling point too.
I wish sometimes that like they would repeat things because I would love to go back through that Stranger Things house. I would love to go back through that Ghostbusters house. And sometimes they do come back around. Sometimes they will, but when they do, it's going to be different. If they bring Michael
Yeah.
Myers back, Michael Myers is this Halloween one is different from that Halloween one, and this Jason universe is probably different from the last time they did something for Friday the 13th. But by the way, they announced Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th. I thought that was a neat thing. Our park adventure, Patrick, tweeted something or said something about it on social. It was like they announced it on his birthday. I was like, no, that was his birthday. But But so there are some things that you can do on this one, that you can get an express pass for Halloween Horror Nights in the same way that you can during the day for Universal. And so they have a Halloween Horror Nights Express Pass, but that is more expensive in the same tradition as Express Pass for the day park. Like, you're going to pay more for an Express Pass than you do for an admission ticket, and they're not included. So the Express Pass starts at $150. So you buy an $83 ticket into the park, and you're like, that's a deal. I can go and I can stand in line and I can get food and maybe ride a ride and do this, and $83 isn't a bad deal. But if you want to bypass some of the lines and get in the Express Pass line, it's an extra 150 plus to get in. Would you recommend that one? Would you recommend getting Express Pass? Let's say, to me, I would say no, because it's so expensive, and yet the ticket is a value that it would be nice to just go in. If it's your first time, just go in and experience it. If it's your 15th time, then I don't know. What do you think?
I think it depends on if you are trying to do all 10 houses. Like, if you're going one night and it's really important that you want to do everything, I think it's worth paying for the express. But I think if you're a real casual person that's kind of like, oh, I want to do Five Nights at Freddy's, I want to do Terrifier, I don't care about Fallout, I don't care about the originals, like, then no, it's not worth it. Like, you could just go do a few houses, get the vibes, do the show, eat some food. But if you're like, I want to do every house and see it all, I think it's worth it for that. Compared to an RIP tour, which is a little pricier, I think it's kind of, well, which one do you want to do? Do you want to even splurge a little more? How much is it important to you to get all of the houses in?
Yeah.
Because Express doesn't even guarantee it.
Well, here's a wait time, and I love that they do this on a large monitor, so you don't have to get right up to it. Here's the wait time for Insidious when I was there, 75-minute wait. They had a couple of the other houses were like the originals were shorter lines. Like this Triplets of Terror was 40 minutes wait to get in. And so, I mean, if you think about this, if all you want to do is go to the houses, I feel like you're looking at roughly on a very busy night, you're looking at roughly a 50-ish minute wait average. So like this one was 40, the other one was 75, some of them are higher. So I feel like that if all you wanted to do were the houses and you come in at the opening and you stay until closing, you could probably do all 10 houses, I feel like, in that amount of time, or at least close to it.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be in line most of the time, but yeah. Wait,
I
what was
do
that?
that as a challenge every year. I try to do all 10 houses without Express and just try to challenge myself. And a lot of it is going to be a lot of walking, because I think what people fall into the trap of is that they look at like the 3 house entrances that are nearby each other and they all have high waits, versus like, okay, well, you got to be able to be willing to walk to the back of the park where something's 5 minutes waits. You do that, and then the crowd from the front has started to move to the back, and then you're going to go back to the front. I think it's a lot of like crisscrossing if you want to do them all with shorter wait times, but you can definitely do them all in a night without Express. I will go and do it, and I will write down every time that I went in and got in line and got in the house, and try to keep track throughout the night. So I do that as a challenge.
I can't remember. Do they put the wait times on the app? I don't think they do.
Yes,
Do they? Okay.
they do.
So you can look into it, and you can know, wait a minute, Terrifier is only 30 minutes. I'm going to run do that one now.
Yep. So that's
Okay.
what, a lot of times it is crossing back and forth and going, oh man, now this is this time. Because you got to also keep in mind that someone is physically, manually changing that time on the sign. So it may say 70 right now. You walk away, and a few minutes later you look on the app and it says 10. Well, it may have been 70 at one moment, and then someone looks and goes, oh, there's no 70-minute wait, drops down to 10, and you got to run back. So you do have to kind of keep checking, like, all right, what's going on here?
All right, let's run through the other pricing here because they have this premium Scream night, which is something they introduced last year. So the very, very first night, it's almost like a preview night, Thursday, August 28th. You can pay $390 and get in. It has complimentary self-parking, and it also has all you care to eat food and drink, select food and drink, not all of it. Shorter wait times with a staggered entry. So basically, you can get shorter wait times on that one night, but also you're there the very first night, which I think has pros and cons. I think that the pros are that you're there at the very beginning, and I'm sure a lot of influencers go the very first night so that they can have be able to talk about it. But also, like, they're still finding their rhythm, I feel like, at that point on that first night. So it almost feels like a technical rehearsal in a little bit of ways to me. But that was something they introduced last year. It's something that you can do if you're looking to like just go at a premium without the RIP. It's a less people in the park for that one. Then you've got the Express Pass that we talked about, your main ticket there. And then you've got the Scream Early ticket, which we talked about. It would give you early park access starting at 3. That's an extra $55. And then you can do Unmasking the Horror, which is what the tour that Annie talked about, going through the houses with the lights on and taking pictures. Because that's another thing. You can't take pictures inside the house or video that when you're there during just the regular times. Then you've got the RIP tour, which is not the private one, but this is an RIP tour, and it's $389 per person to start, but that does not include your park ticket. That is $389 per person. So the RIP tour is a group, 10 to 12 people get together. You won't know the rest of the people in your group if it's not a private, but you could get a whole bunch of people together and do it, and they take you on a tour of the whole thing, just like the VIP tour happens during the day. The RIP tour happens at night. The guys are dressed up in scrubs. They'll take you through and basically take you through to the very front of the line and walk you through each of the houses. But they have a plan of how they're going to do that. If you do a private tour, then basically you just tell them what you want, and you could do the same house 10 times if you wanted to, and you go with your group. But those are much, much more expensive per person. So that is, again, it's another option. And I saw Dawn said earlier, like, she's been spoiled. She's paid for the RIP tour, and she just can't go back. I feel like we do that a lot. In this fandom, is like we just like, oh, it's just this once, I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna do this, and then after that you're like, I'm ruined, because I think my kids are ruined with the way we do some of these things. So Halloween Horror Nights Rush of Fear Pass is the other thing. You've got, if you're local and you're going to go a lot, you've got the Rush of Fear, the Frequent Fear, and the Frequent Fear Plus that just got released this past week. And so those are ones that allow you to go multiple times during the course of the event and at different levels. So the Rush of Fear is like you go August and September on select dates, and then the Frequent Fear is you go August, September, October, November, and then the Frequent Fear Plus is you get to go on multiple, basically every night that they have it at that point. Anything I'm missing there?
Well, yeah, the ultimate is the one that's the every night. There's
gotcha. Yeah, the ultimate.
Yeah, I only know that because I bought that one. So now I'm like, I'm committed to going every night. I'm going to be there every night.
Yep. So that one's all dates, the ultimate you're talking about. Admission to Halloween Horror Nights, all dates, self-parking, upgrade to include Halloween Horror Nights Express. I noticed when I went in to buy the Frequent Fear that they were like, oh, the ones with Express Pass were sold out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they really want to offer that much Express because they make more money selling individual ones rather than a bulk Express on your ticket. And so I think they sell enough of them that they exist, but they limited it so that they could sell more nightly. And I think that, same thing there. This year, they're requiring annual pass holders to have a reservation for their free ticket. And I think that also comes down to them like figuring out how many more tickets they could sell per night because they know how many people are using a free ticket on each night.
Yeah. And just so you know, like the highest level of the annual pass is the one that comes with the with one free ticket to get into Halloween Horror Nights. So, like I have an annual pass, but it's not that annual pass. Yeah, I know it's crazy. So anyway, those are the ticket breakdowns for it. That's what you're going to be paying. So you can go, I think, fairly cheap, or you could go super expensive with. So it runs everywhere from the just the single night ticket for like $83 starting to that. Ultimate frequent fear pass, which is starting at $420 for that one, $299 for the next tier down, $249 for the next tier down, and $199 for the next tier down after that. So again, it depends on how many times you want to go. If you are a frequent fear type of a person, you probably already know all this, and you probably knew that it dropped this week, and you probably purchased it. It was one of those things where it caused that queue back up with Universal when you went to buy tickets this week when they announced it. So a lot of our park adventurers that we have in our Park Adventurers Club were very excited that these went on sale and that they were able to buy them. So before we, there are two other things I want to talk about. One is Universal Studios Hollywood. They also host this event, and it's sort of, I feel like, has grown over time at Universal Studios Hollywood and is not as big as the one in Florida. But you've been to that one, right, in Hollywood?
Yeah, I like that one. I know a lot of people hated on it. I only went 1 year, but I thought their houses were a little better than ours. I thought they were a little more intense. When we were talking earlier about how some of the houses you go through the stuff that's hanging. Well, in the houses in Hollywood, you push through dead bodies and you push through hanging pigs. I thought it was much more intense out there. So I only
Wow.
went 1 year, but I really loved it. I was surprised.
Yeah. Well, and we have our buddy Charlie's out there and was unable to be with us tonight, but at some point we'll talk to Charlie a little bit too, because I know he goes to the one out there. I have been on an RIP tour, and I did get the RIP button. I have a button they give you when you go. So this was my 2023 RIP tour. I was very excited. I like buttons and pins and freebies. You know that about me, Annie. So that's the one thing I want to talk about. The other thing is that as Jungle Cruiser mentioned earlier, because there is a permanent HHN called Halloween Horror Unleashed. Is that what it's called, or is it Unchained?
I think it's Horror Unleashed.
Horror
No
Unleashed. You wouldn't
Halloween
say
in it.
Halloween because it's year round.
Yeah.
So Horror Unleashed is coming to Vegas and opens up next month. It opens up in October. So Horror Unleashed is going to be 4 houses. They're going to have food offerings. It happens indoors. It looks really cool. And like you said earlier, you're going to go out there. I feel like at some point I want to go out there and check this thing out. It opens up on August 14th of this year. And then before this one's even opened, they've announced one in Chicago that's going to open up. And I think that one is 2027. So there are
I'm shocked.
right? Like
I'm
you would think
shocked.
maybe they'd open the doors on this one first before they go ahead. They've got to have some kind of information that says, "Hey, we got to push on."
That's what I was saying to someone else the other day in the park. Someone else was like, "Well, they must have some sort of they must feel really confident in this if they're gonna already announce a second one before opening the first one." You'd think they'd at least like let it run a little, like a month, before you made the announcement. Even if you were building one secretly in Chicago, don't announce it until after you were sure the other one was a little bit successful. I think that's a very bold thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and it reminds me that Chicago had a Disney Quest. Just putting that out there. So these are the
Oh
houses
God.
that they're opening up with in Vegas. I assume they will rotate these based on popularity. Usually, there's a Universal Monsters something at both of Horror Nights in Hollywood and in Orlando. So it makes sense that they would have a Universal Monsters house, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scarecrow the Reaping, which is a house that has existed, and then The Exorcist Believer. So these are the
Well,
houses
all
that they're
four
opening up with.
existed.
Yeah,
All
no,
four
for
of
sure.
these have existed. So, that's interesting because earlier when I mentioned how it changes every year, and you were kind of saying how there were certain houses you wish that you could do again that you missed, and it's almost like, well, is that what this Vegas thing is going to be? That hey, these are 4 houses that hey, if you didn't get to them,
Yeah.
they're kind of the same, but not. Even if you've done them, it's worth doing again.
You know what this reminds me of is The Void. There was one at Disney Springs, The Void, which was a VR experience, and that was
Yeah.
not special to Disney. They had them around the country, and there was like a Ghostbusters one somewhere, and there were different ones. We had Star Wars and Wreck-It Ralph
Right,
at
Ralph.
the one in Florida, and then I think in California when they opened that one, maybe it had Frozen. I can't remember which one was there, but there was an Iron Man at some point. So all of these things, like it's very similar to this, right? That you go to different ones, you should see different things. I wouldn't think that these four houses, when Chicago opens up, will exist, or maybe they take these four houses, move them to Chicago, and then they build four new ones here. I don't know. I mean, it will be interesting to see, or interesting to see if something is so popular in the parks that it comes into this. There's like the sky's the limit for them on this one, and I feel like they found their niche with this. Disney can't really touch them on this one. I don't feel like. Yes, people go to Mickey's Not So Scary, but I wish that they would do this at Hollywood Studios at Disney. I wish that they would take some of this cool IP like Alien that they have, and they would just put it in and do something like this. And it almost feels like there's some unwritten rule with Universal where they're like, you can't do this. We do this. This is how we've established ourselves. And maybe it's because Universal's kind of like the edgy teens and above, vibe, and Disney is just the wholesome family vibe, and that's why they don't do this. I don't know.
It's interesting. Hong Kong Disney used to do like a haunted house walkthrough kind of
The
experience thing. It
trails.
wasn't meant to be scary. What?
They were trails, right? Didn't they have one for Jack Skellington one year? Because I felt like I was going to fly out because I wanted to see it so
I
badly.
I actually yeah, I have that video on my channel of it because I actually went out there and it was I wasn't even a YouTuber or anything at the time, so I like found that video recently. But it was one of the coolest things I ever experienced. Like it was really good. Like there was props that were moving and like I don't want to say animatronics, but a little bit of stuff. And there were live actors, and you went through like scene by scene, and so it was a little bit pulsed and everything. But it was really really cool, and I could see Disney doing that because it wasn't scary. Like there was like one room that like when Jack screamed, like spiders dropped down from the walls, but otherwise there was not much scary. And I feel like Disney could totally take that from Hong Kong and have put it in like Hollywood Studios or somewhere and have a walkthrough. Like add that to Not So Scary Halloween Party, then I'd pay $300 for your ticket. you know Give me a
Yeah.
haunted walkthrough here. Yeah, that
Well,
nightmare though is a good one. But I think they had done like a Marvel one maybe the year before. I thought I heard that maybe.
maybe. Um, yeah, I don't know. I wish they would do more of them, but like I said, I saw that, when you go to Oogie Boogie Bash, and this is way off topic, but there is a trail that you can do that is like the villains trail,
Oh,
and it's very cool, and there's smoke and lights and all that kind of stuff, and then just I walk through that and go, give me this in Florida, give me this kind of a thing, and especially with some of the other IP that they have, I think that would be cool. One last
why
thing I
is
want to talk
Oogie
about.
Boogie so much better?
I love Oogie
why is
Boogie
it
Bash.
why is it so much better than Not So Scary? Everything I hear about it sounds so much better. Like I want to go out there for that.
There's a lot of cool stuff about Oogie Boogie Bash. I can't even tell you about it right now, but we should definitely talk about Oogie Boogie Bash because it is to me my favorite Disney hard ticketed event that they do. So, one thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up here is I was going to ask you about speculation maps. These always start early about what's going to be where, and so this was, I think, the speculation map from this year. And so they had, I feel like that there's still two IP houses to drop. Maybe Five Nights at Freddy's is one of those, but I feel like one of the things that we kind of took from this is there was going to be a wrestling haunted house that might be
Yeah.
announced. But the speculation maps come out every year, and the people who do these, I mean, what's the lore? Like, what do you know about the speculation maps? Is like who does them and how do they know and all that, or is it just kind of like it's just a secret, kind of like who is Dead Mouse? I don't know.
I think it's just a secret about what they do, but I think, you'd be surprised at what you see laying around places, and, what kind of, just papers that might be left out on a desk that maybe you're vacuuming the floor and you're like, what's this? I don't know. I don't know how this works.
Well, it's definitely a fun thing to follow along to every year is the speculation maps. That's something that is always fun to do. So, once they announce the rest of the houses and, we get boots on the ground, we'll have to talk more about like a review of the 2025 one and how all that went. But before I go to the final thoughts on this, are there anything that we didn't talk about? Because it's a big event, and I feel like that I wanted this to be something where, again, we talk about what's coming in 2025, but we also kind of give people who have never been kind of like some information, because I do think, like, my wife has never been, and I can't convince her that it's a thing she should do, and yet the kids and I both go, or we go and love it. But I fought it forever because I thought, no, Disney, Mickey, I'm going to this one, and I fought it forever, and then I went. I was like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. I get why people get so into this. So any final thoughts before we get into the should you go thing? Because that's our wrap up. But anything we've missed talking about?
We never discussed if a fountain show could come back this year. Do you
Really?
remember they did? Yeah, I'm thinking we
I've never
got
seen it.
fountains now. Well, it got hurricane damage 2 years ago, and
Okay.
that's why we haven't had a fountain show in 2 years. We started off with one. 2023 started off with a fountain. Was it 2023 started off? And there was a hurricane, and it like killed all the fountains. And so then they refixed all that, and that's why we got our new lagoon show. But then we did not get an HHN show last year, and everyone kind of expected it. But I'm thinking that I think time.
Well, especially if Rocket is down, you've got, if people were riding that one still, you've got less capacity in the park. It would be nice to have something else for people to do other than to wait in line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it pulls people in. I'm hoping. Crossing your fingers.
Yes, fingers crossed. All right. Well, Annie, thank you for doing this. Everybody who's been in the chat, we appreciate you guys being with us. And we're going to, before we get into our final thought here, I do want to say a big shout out to our pack. We love our pack, the Park Adventurers Club. If you want to know more about how to be a part of the pack, you can go to patreon.com/GoPack, PAC, and a big shout out to our supporters. As a matter of fact, I asked in our Discord, I asked our pack members about, our question of the week, which is, should you go? And then some people in chat, this was BYM051D, says not being in Orlando keeps me from going. When I go to Orlando, I'm primarily heading to Disney. Neko says, haven't been for 3 reasons. I'm a scaredy cat, never been during that time period, and can't see the price justification for an after hours event, which again, I think that's not the worst price range, because the Oogie Boogie is more expensive than this one. Jayware says, no way I'd have nightmares for weeks. Maleficent is scary enough. And then Patrick said, I love HHN, and also I'm a scaredy cat. I love the mix of IP and the original houses. And then Jayware said, when they do Jaws, I'll go. And then Real Life Evie's Sienna says, I was a big baby for years. I enjoy scary stuff, but always had been told that how extreme HHN is and how the experience, it's an experience only Universal could do. So of course I thought that there's no way I could handle that. But yeah, I know that she's gone. William says HHN isn't just an event, it's an obsession for me. And Great Number 8 said it's been a bucket list. Probably I'll go in 2 years or so. So thank you guys again for being members of the pack. We appreciate you. And before we go into this final thing, I know, Annie, you've got a ton of stuff going on, including Adventuring with Annie, which is your channel where you do a bunch of stuff, but you've also got like a new store that you're doing too.
Yeah, park provisions store. We're doing some like theme park kind of merchandise. I got some cute ideas. There's a Drink Around the Universe shirt. We've got some other cute stuff. So, if anyone likes to drink around the universe, I do. So, you know where to find me.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I appreciate you coming and hanging out and being a fellow park adventurer with us. It's great having you on. But tonight, the question before you, as a park adventurer in this very important, quick ad hoc meeting we've been doing tonight, is should you go to Halloween Horror Nights? And so, for anybody who has never been, obviously, if you've been, you know if you should go or should go back. But if you've never been, and as you can hear some of our packs say, quote unquote, they're self-proclaimed scaredy cats. The overall question, and I feel like I know your answer here, but how vote ye, Annie? Should you go to HHN?
Yes. Even if you don't want to be scared, there's food, there's music, there's just lights, atmosphere. Yes, yes, definitely go.
That's it. Just definitely go.
Definitely
Yeah,
go.
you know what? I like I said, I'm a Disney, grew up Disney. Universal started the park in Orlando. I went there before I went to the one in Hollywood. Never went to HHN. I had kids, small kids, and it just didn't. There's too much fun stuff to do in Orlando that you always have to make choices. I didn't go to SeaWorld until like 5 years ago, but in general, I was not thinking this was for me until I went, and then I was like, why have I missed this all my life? I feel like there were probably a ton of cool houses that I should have gone to that I didn't get to go to because I hadn't gone. And so I think if you can tag this on to your Orlando vacation when you go, I think the value is there, especially if you just do the $83 as an entryway to go. Don't go whole hog into the frequent fear or any of that kind of stuff. Just go and try it. Sample the food, sample the vibe. The vibe there is something that you just can't explain. You'll know when you go. And I that sounds a little lame from where I'm saying this is your guide to HHN, but you will know when you go. And I'm advocating that you find the time and the chance, if you can, either the one in Hollywood or the one in Orlando. If you get a chance, go. And if you're in Vegas, you can sample it there, and that'll be a cool thing too. So that's how we think. Please let us know in the comments what you think. Thank you everyone who is with us tonight for our park meeting. We appreciate you. We have another live stream on Wednesday night where we're going to be reviewing Zombies 3. Of course, the Zombies 3, because Zombies 4 is coming out. You can't watch Zombies 4 until you've listened to me and Patrick talk about Zombies 3. So that's next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. And then the following Friday, we're going to do our trivia that we do, Hakunima Trivia, which is a lot of fun. Maybe we'll try to draft Annie into it because I feel like she knows a lot of stuff. But thank you, Annie, so much for being here. I appreciate you. Any final thoughts before we go?
You gotta go to HHN. That's all I gotta say. Give it a shot.
No choice. You gotta go. Thank you guys. Have a great week. And don't forget, adventure is out there.